Shut up and sit down.
Hi, I'm Jason Mordecai, the Virtual Security Advisor, and welcome to our first episode on YouTube. This will be a weekly episode, and we're going to discuss matters around personal security, and we'll be starting off with situational awareness. What's very important as we embark on this journey together is that you try to take at least one practical thing out of these discussions. There's a lot of information on the internet, but the question is, how do you turn this into something real and actionable in your life? So enjoy the journey with me and just keep your ears and your eyes open and try and find one thing that you can take home and make it real every day. So our first discussion is going to be around situational awareness. If you go to my blog, securityadvisor.net, you'll see I've written a ton on the topic. But what's really pertinent now is, with everybody on COVID lockdown, is the opportunistic mindset that revolves around situational awareness. Because it seems as if our resources are limited. We're stuck in an apartment, we're stuck in our houses, we can't go out, and everything's been cut off. And actually we are in a resource-rich environment, which is important for our lives, and it's important for security and personal security as well. So from a situational awareness perspective, it's very simple to understand the concept. All you've got to do is use your sensory system to identify threats or anomalies in the environment. There are two time frames around this. There's the immediate environment, the immediate threat. You hear a sound, you turn, some movement catches your eye, or somebody makes a strange gesture, a strange look, something that triggers a primal response in you, and you need to act. So that type of situational awareness relies on visual, auditory, or even kinesthetic sensory system. Someone grabs you, you turn, something along those lines. The second time frame around situational awareness is where cognition is allowed to take place. So you're monitoring, you're scanning your environment, and you have enough time to think about what you're seeing and take action around that. So it could be you're driving, there's a car behind you with three guys, you take a turn, you take another turn, car's still behind you, guys aren't talking, they look dead quiet when you look in the mirror. Something's wrong with this vehicle. You've got time to think about, what plan am I going to make? Am I going to drive to a police station? Am I going to drive home? And what am I going to do? The cognitive side of your process takes over. It's not an instinctual side. And that's what we're going to talk about today. Situational awareness and the opportunistic mindset is about scanning your environment and finding opportunities. In a security context, what does that mean? If I take my history and my background, it could be when I've gone into a house and I've found somebody that's been tied up in a bathroom. Were there resources where they could have untied themselves? Or you've been locked in the back of a shop during an armed robbery. What could they have done? Could they have weaponized themselves with something lying around? This all becomes the opportunistic mindset feeding our security internal software. So we're going to start with a little exercise that I developed years ago, and it was inspired by this movie. So in the movie Castaway, the Tom Hanks movie, he's a guy that works for a courier company, and he's taking an important Christmas flight. Plane crash happens, and he ends up on this a lone survivor on a desert island. And I love this idea because it was all about him discovering the survival process, making tools and finding a way to get by and finally to get home. And this is something which, it's a mindset which we should take with us every day in our lives. So if you think about when you're going to a checkout store, when you're going to a petrol station, when you're going into a shopping mall, when you're going into an office, what are the things that you carry with you on a day-to-day basis? I want you to make a list of those things, and then I want you to imagine that you were in Tom Hanks' situation. and you need to find something that could be used for collecting water, something that you could have turned into a weapon, something that you could maybe use for shelter or as a utility tool, and repurpose the very day-to-day objects that you carry with you and see if you could have survived that island. Our next step of the way is to see what happens. So we're going to change the view. I'll give you a list of things, pause the video, give yourself 2 or 3 minutes, and then all you need to do is repurpose what you've got, and let's see what happens. Right, so think about the objects that you carry with you on a day-to-day basis. You're stuck on a desert island, what have you got? My day-to-day carry items, I have a multi-tool and a folder. I'm going to take them out of the picture because it makes the exercise way too easy. So this is what I've got with me now. I've got a cell phone, I've got a pen, my money clip and my credit cards, watch, socks and shoes, and a belt. What could I do with these things? How could I repurpose them? So let's assume the cell phone ended up in the water. Not really much use, but it has a screen which could be dismembered and maybe used as a reflective surface to attract attention. The pen makes a nice stabbing weapon, or alternatively I could even unscrew it and turn it into a straw. Credit cards, maybe I could sharpen them and use them into some kind of tool, or maybe use them as a reflective surface. I've also got a nice metal money clip there which could be repurposed into a utility tool. Perhaps I could use the watch strap for as an item for holding things. A sock is a great survival tool. I can put gravel into it and sand and filter water through it. Alternatively, I can put some large stones and maybe turn it into a kosh as a swinging weapon. I've got my belt, which I could use as a climbing tool or a carrying device. It's maybe as a swinging weapon as well. It's got a nice hard buckle. And I've got shoelaces that I could use for tying things. I could create snares. Perhaps I could dig with the shoes. The limit to this is not the resources that you have. The limit to this is your imagination. And this takes us to the formula of the opportunistic mindset, which I'm going to give you next. There's one other survival need that Tom Hanks kept with him, and that's the need of company. So he created this character called Wilson, which was made out of a basketball. I brought Mrs. Wilson together with me. I think she's lovely, don't you? So Mrs. Wilson's been whispering in my ear, and she reminded me that the formula for the opportunistic mindset is this. Use your situational awareness, which means scan the environment, use your ears, eyes, touch things, smell things, get the data in. Second of all, use your imagination and then re-engineer. So what's the formula? Scan, imagine, re-engineer. As security advisors about self-defense, I thought it was important for me to talk a little bit about improvised weapons. The truth is that the way in which criminals work and bullies work is that they tend to look for targets that are weaker or more vulnerable than themselves, and very often I would always advocate that you try and get away from a confrontation or try to get to a safe place. But if you're forced to fight, finding some kind of an equalizer is the way to go. So I took a walk through my house and I just found a few arbitrary objects, and that brings us to the three categories of categories of improvised weapons. Again, homework: take a walk through your house and just see how many improvised weapons are lying around in the environment that you're in now. So the first one I picked up is this screwdriver, and this falls into the first category of improvised weapon, which are edged or poking or stabbing type weapons. It can be held very firmly in the hand and stabbed very, very effectively. I could turn this light bulb into a similar weapon if I were to shatter it into a sharp object and do something like this with it. It would certainly change your day. The next category of weapon are striking weapons, or blunt object weapons. I've found a good old skateboard here, and you can barge people away, you can swing, you can, Hulk smash, and then of course when you're ready you can put it on the ground and make your quick escape. The last category of weapons are weapons of distance. And weapons of distance are basically things that you would you would deploy a little bit further away from your attacker, or weapons that create distance. So it might be, I might be converting this plug into something that I could strike with, but I might also just throw it at you to make you flinch so I can make my escape. Alternatively, I might want to convert this household detergent into a type of a pepper spray attack. Spray it at you and make distance. All right, it's important that you can be versatile and you need to identify something very quickly and create that equalizer. I did mention 4 categories of weapons. There are 3 categories of weapons. There is a 4th. According to John Cleese, this is a lethal weapon. I haven't figured out how to use it yet, but I look forward to hearing your feedback as to how we could use it. Mrs. Wilson's also reminded me that keeping safe and survival is also about food security. So here's something fun you can do during your lockdown time. The opportunistic mindset is learning to make something out of nothing, or something that didn't appear to be there. And so what one of Mrs. Wilson's secrets is we've been chopping the edges and the tops off our carrots, and we've made a little urban farm here, and you can see that they're sprouting, and you could plant that in a pot if you're living in an apartment or in your garden. And so it's a case of taking the limited food resources. We've done the same here with some spring onions. It's a case of taking the limited food resources that you've got, because maybe food supplies become limited. Maybe you don't want to go out to shopping centers or grocery stores too often, and turning that into a long-term food solution. And the opportunistic mindset is not just about food or weapons or escaping from a dangerous situation. Use the time to find other opportunities in your life. That might be the case of re-engineering your business, re-engineering other aspects of your life. And how do we do that? We scan for what's around us, using our senses. We imagine, and then we engineer. If you want to read more about the Situational Awareness and Security Advisor, just log on to securityadvisor.net. Tons of useful articles. And then engage with me. Let's start a discussion. I'll see you in a week's time. Thanks.